I'm Andreas Whittam Smith. I spent a lifetime as a journalist and various other things. I've even been a film censor, believe it or not, for about 5 years. I'm really proud to see my signature up there in the cinema. And then when it went, somebody else did it. I thought, this is unreasonable. Anyway, I got the Independent going, and the Independent still, thank goodness, survives, difficult though it is for newspapers. I'm also in charge of the huge endowment of the Church of England called the Church Commissioners. So I do a big variety of things. I like working. I don't ever feel like retiring. I mean, it's interesting history in a way. I first voted, I know this will shock you how long ago it was, 1959, Macmillan. Never had it so good. I was at Oxford at the time on a full local authority grant, and I was never having it so good. So it seemed obvious which way I would vote. Then Labour turn up, and Harold Wilson turns up and talks about the white heat of revolution, and we're going to have a modern economy and all that stuff, and I sort of believe him. You did in those days. You don't any longer, but I did. And then he gets in with a very small majority and runs for a second election, gets a big majority, and then something bad happens. From that day onwards, really, 66, I suppose I'd say, or 64, politicians make promises during elections and systematically fail to keep them. So Wilson devalued the pound, tried to reform the trades unions, didn't succeed. Election 1970, Heath comes along, same thing all over again, makes his promises, doesn't succeed. Famous U-turn, perhaps the word U-turn was invented to describe Mr. Heath, as far as I know. And then there's a lady called Margaret Thatcher who came into Parliament in 59, gets into Heath's cabinet as Minister of Education, and she sits there watching everything. Heath, anyway, is come 1974, hasn't kept his promises of a 3-day week and all that stuff, and he's out, and Wilson is back. Once again, same thing, all over again, until 1979, and in comes Mrs. Thatcher. And it's different. She does more or less do what she says she'll do, broadly. That's the last occasion, I think. And then we come to, and I vote for her, because I have no conscience about this. You know, in my young days I worked for the Telegraph and I worked for the Guardian. I don't give a toss, really.
Yep, okay, brilliant.
I don't, to be truthful. Because I think I'm like most people. We've all got a confusing mix of opinions in our heads and instincts, which some will be classified as left-wing and some will be classified as right-wing. Aren't we all like that? That's what I think, anyway. And that's me, certainly. And then I had the really difficult one, which isn't a very glorious episode in my life. 1992, it's Kinnock versus Major, and Kinnock is leading in the polls. And I walked down to the polling station, and I suddenly realised that Labour's tax plans are going to actually hit me personally in the pocket, because they're introducing a 50% tax rate on higher earners, and that is me. I find I can't bear to vote to reduce my income. I should be able to, should I not? For the good of the country, but I can't. And so I switch my vote on the walk down to the polling station and vote for Major. He comes back with a huge and unexpected majority. And now we're getting close to present day history, which everybody remembers. I regret that I found it incapable to remove my clear pocketbook self-interest from the equation. Maybe that's what... I think it taught politicians a lesson. Since then, no politician has ever gone forward to an election saying that they will raise taxes. It took tax rises off the agenda, actually. It seemed like a fatal thing that had happened. And so it's contributed to the fact that we now have election campaigns that hardly any content at all.
Yeah.
They won't complain about. You see, Cameron says, and I'll put it into law, he says, there will be no tax increases in the next 5 years, and that'll be legal. That all stems from 1992.
And you were a financial journalist, weren't you?
Yeah, I was, yeah.
Does that worry you in the sense that you worry about any government that's taking that option off the table?
Yes, I do, yeah.
It limits its tools.
I think there are ways of expressing it. I think you can say that we can't see what the economic circumstances are going to be, and I have to warn you, I wouldn't mind saying this, you have to warn you that there can be tax increases, and I don't want anybody to suppose otherwise. I don't see what's wrong with saying that, but they won't say that.
Yeah, fair enough.
It was the specific nature of the Kinnock tax thing which was the problem. It actually spelt it out in detail.